Radiation is generally not a good thing to get exposed to, while smaller doses from X-rays or larger focus doses by radiation oncologists for cancer or pinched nerves typically don't cause irreversible problems or the benefits outweigh the risks. Scary things start to happen when people are irradiated all over their body. Anyone who has seen the HBO show Chernobyl has a sense roughly of what that can look like. I recently reviewed the Starfield mod, Starvival. While it's a great mod, there are a few points that could be a little bit more medically accurate. Players developing radiation toxicity within minutes while on a planet's surface and quickly succumbing to their injuries. As a pathologist and someone who's getting going on aerospace medicine research, including studying astronauts exposed to cosmic radiation, I wanted to clarify what one could expect radiation-wise on the Mars surface. And if you want more content like this, more medically themed videos, leave a comment or a like. In this video, we're going to be covering two things. What does acute radiation toxicity look like? And how likely is it on another planet that might not have the same radiation protection as we have on Earth, like Mars? Let's start with what happens in acute radiation toxicity, which are the health consequences of most of your body being exposed to a lot of radiation over a short period of time. Medicine and radiation are both very complicated, so I'm going to simplify this. Once folks are exposed to a decent amount of radiation, specifically 1 gray or 100 rads for people living in the 1950s, individuals can start to develop pretty non-specific symptoms like fever, diarrhea, and vomiting. Individuals can then seem to get better and be okay for a little while. Then things get bad, with the severity of disease being influenced by just how much radiation one is exposed to. Failure of key body systems finally catches up to individuals because it takes a little bit of time for those effects to be felt, and people can bleed, have severe diarrhea with blood being lost in the diarrhea, become confused, and the heart can struggle to maintain the body with all of these things happening. Some can fortunately survive this, which is determined by availability of medical care and the dose that one receives. But survival doesn't mean everything is all good, because individuals are at risk long term of several different types of cancers, along with lung injury that lasts the rest of one's life. They can also develop skin lesions that simply won't heal and could eventually require amputations, as occurred with Chernobyl, along with some other diseases like sterility, so losing one's ability to reproduce, and cataracts, which are deposits in the eyes that have to be surgically removed. So one's face could be arguably considered to melt in the short or long term, because the cells that help maintain your skin, help it heal, can be permanently destroyed, requiring intensive wound care and possibly plastic surgery. So why do I have qualms about Starvival? An astronaut's actual dose on the Mars surface would be a lot less than that 1 gray dose required for acute radiation toxicity. The Mars Curiosity rover, which has similarities to the Mars Opportunity rover, which you can actually find in Starfield, measured radiation on the Mars surface in 2012 and found that the average daily dose was roughly 230 microgray per day. So if someone stayed on the Mars surface for a year, it would reach about 8.5% of the required dose for toxicity, or 85 milligray, meaning they would likely not develop acute radiation toxicity. The actual dose that an astronaut would receive would probably be lower, because one would expect that any habitats they would stay in would have some sort of shielding, and in addition, the egress times onto the surface would also be limited, particularly avoiding times that might be associated with greater solar activity. While radiation exposure isn't the only concern for a Mars astronaut, since exposure to altered gravity can produce a condition called neuroocular syndrome, which can be a big problem. This data suggests that while radiation can be an issue in the long term, it would seem to be less of an issue in the short term. It's all important though, as all these topics were covered in depth at an aerospace medicine research conference that I attended last year in Texas. The timing of diseases can make identifying the most important topic challenging because ultimately, everything is important. In summary, acute radiation poisoning or toxicity would seem to be unrealistic for an astronaut. So it may be a feature that's better omitted from space video games or from Starfield's survival mode moving forward. This being said, it does offer a punishing mechanic that can keep players on their toes and engaged with the game, which can be great for boosting immersion. Like I noted in my Starvival review video, which you can refer to in the video description, sometimes gameplay can be more important than realism. So the mod author's choice to include the mechanic was very reasonable, and keeping the mechanic, even perhaps after learning more about radiation toxicity, would also be very reasonable. This was my first video bringing my medical and research expertise to the video games that I love playing too. So let me know what you think about this type of video, and I can consider making more because I do enjoy this. I love delving into the literature, and that's part of why I became a physician scientist. I also want to produce content that folks like. So let me know your thoughts through comments, likes, and subscriptions. Thanks for watching, and Starship out.